Let's podcast. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, they got what you need to fuel your small to medium-sized business, fuel those savings. In the same way that in the college basketball sports take industrial complex, Cooper Flagg and Duke, it's combustible. It's going to fire up a million takes after last night with Kentucky getting the better of Duke last night in the Champions Classic, Joe. Hit me with your hottest Cooper Flagg Duke take from last night, Joe.
I'll say this. Okay. I tried to tell you that this guy is not the player that you think he is. Okay. He's not the player who ESPN or anyone else wants him to be. But he is a really good player. Now,
I was going to say, where's this going?
Now.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it until last night that he wears number 2, which is Josh McRoberts' number.
Do you have the... Do I have to go?
It's over there.
Let me go grab it.
I will say this. He's definitely a more assertive version of Josh McRoberts. Yeah, he has a better mid-range game.
This is from Matt Davis over at State Farm. He's our actual show archivist these days.
Yeah.
And this is a program insert from February 7th, 2007. You got Greg Paulus, DeMarcus Nelson, Carlisle Cup, and look at that. What do I see in this Duke-Carolina matchup card?
Number 2.
Josh McRoberts.
2 in your hearts and on your program. Now, listen, he made 2 mistakes at the end of this game. But you know what's funny is people say, oh my God, he's 17. Oh my God, he's 17. I'm just going to point out the obvious here. He has the oldest of old man white games. That's what he does. He's got a mid-range game. He's got good size. He knows how to back people down.
Yeah.
And that's what he tried to do with my Deeks, Andrew Carr, the transfer from Wake Forest and Delaware. He tried to back him down, tried to get him to the basket, ends up turning the ball over twice in the final sequence. But I'm going to say this for Cooper Flagg, that I'm already more happy for him and for Duke for this very specific reason. The money was on the table. He wanted the ball. He went and got the ball. That's more than I can say for Paolo Banchero in his year as the lone bus driver at Duke. And ultimately, that team fell short in the Final Four. Yes, I know the opponents. Yes, I know all these other things. But ultimately, that was a failure of their hierarchy and understanding who needed the ball and who needed to play the way that they needed to play.
Yeah.
Watching the first half, it was crystal clear how Duke needed to play. It's also crystal clear that they have the parts to win the national championship. This was a setback. I still would rather have Duke's parts than anybody else's parts going forward. It is clear that from the first half of this basketball game, he is the bus driver of this team. I'm kind of laughing at Jeff Goodman after the game going, well, Duke, the thing that Duke really needs is a point guard. No, this is a very NBA. This is a very NBA style that they're playing. Your bus driver handles the ball and initiates your offense.
What they need to function is everybody on the court running what they wanted to run, which is what we saw in the first half. Okay.
Yes.
Duke is not hitting threes, but it was not that big of a deal because all their pieces were on the court at the same time. You had Malawach, who was rebounding the ball. He has cramping issues. He only plays 10 minutes in the second half. That changes the nature of the game because Kentucky was hitting threes early. That was the only reason why Kentucky was even in the damn game. Yes. So as much as Duke was not hitting their own threes, and I know people are going to make a big deal of the fact that they didn't hit threes. What is it?
4 for 23.
Con Knippel was 1 of 8 from 3. He was, 1 of 8 from 3, 5 of 20 from the field. He didn't have a great shooting night. But because of rebounding and Cooper Flagg with 26 points and all the other stats, and again, the rebounding was keeping him in this game, getting them out to a lead. But then Malawach goes out. I thought that changed the nature of the game. It also changed the nature of how John Shire wants to run the offense. And I know there's some complaints that down the stretch, and I think there's a method to the madness here. Down the stretch, it basically became Cooper Flagg, ISO. What are you going to watch and do, right? Now, you can complain about that. Like, what are you doing? It was working before. Now, why are you going single? Why are you just singling out Cooper Flagg? Well, it's a long game. I think Kentucky and Duke were in these games for 2 completely different reasons, and I'll get to that in a second. I'll give you Duke's version, John Shire's version of what this game was about. Neutral court, big blue blood opponent, all eyes on you. Yes, Cooper Flagg is 17. He'll be 18 in less than a month. But there is a lot put on a young guy right now to carry the team. Well, what are the growth points? Where are you going to learn from this? Well, high pressure situation, it's on you. He did not do a good job down the stretch. You brought up the 2 turnovers. Technically speaking, Duke down the stretch had 4 turnovers in the last 2 minutes of the game. 3 of those turnovers were from Cooper Flagg. They had 7 total turnovers for the game. 4 of them happened in the final 2 minutes. 3 of them were Cooper Flagg's. And you can argue that the game was out of hand, but rebounding, which was key, and Cooper Flagg had a few, had one ripped away. Who knows what you do in those situations when the final, with the seconds ticking off? But these are growth measurables. Yeah, these are things that you can look at. I said this on Threads last night, and I'm going to double down on this. You bring up the ESPN. There's a single season arc you and I were talking about before we hit record. You have to speed run a career in college now. All right.
This was his freshman year. This game was his freshman year.
Last night was it.
Yes.
That was the freshman year.
Yes.
So when you get to the end of the year and Duke's running hot, and who knows, maybe they win the ACC championship for all I know. You're going to go, I know if, shout out to Bert, okay, over at ESPN. My guy Thompson, right? I don't know if he's still cutting up tape or features and all that stuff. I can't keep up with what Brett's doing these days. But I know, because the universe is funny sometimes, he's going to have to create a package where here was Cooper Flagg in a big moment, Champions Classic, blue blood showdown against Kentucky, and a low point in the season. And look how far he's come, and now he's cutting down the nets. I'm telling you, that's how it's going to be set up.
Play arms wide open in the back of it.
Oh, absolutely. And if you don't believe me, here's John Shire after the game, thanks to our guy, Ethan Hyman, who was at the game last night. He sent us this video from the News and Observer, and you can see John already setting the table for that.
For us, it's disappointing because, you're winning for 27 minutes, and our guys competed. They played hard. This guy to my right, at 17 years old, what he does and how he competes and how he shows up, I couldn't be more proud of him. Could not be more proud of him coaching this guy, man. We got a long season to go. I feel more optimistic tonight losing than I did even before, because you find out in this game the character of your team, the heart that they have, and this team's got a lot of heart. We're missing Kaman. We're up, I think it was 9 when Kaman started cramping in the second half, and it's a big loss for us. Sion too. There was a huge sequence for us. Sion getting injured, and they hit a 3. It was a double whammy, and they kept coming at us, making shots, and we had an answer. We just kept answering, and came down to one more play at the end. And give them credit, tip your hat to them. For us, we're going to grow and learn from this. I promise you that. But we got a locker room full of guys are disappointed, heartbroken. I'm with them, and we're going to get better.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a big experience. We started 3 freshmen. So I know me, Connor, learned a lot from tonight. Playing some big minutes, for sure. It was definitely a big learning experience for us. It's just basketball. We came out, we competed. A bunch of plays that we can clean up on, get better at. But at the end of the day, it was just basketball.
Again, thanks to Ethan for that.
I will give him the 17 on that one. I do wish he had a little bit more polish with the. No, you made the play. You didn't make the plays at the end. You have to take a little bit of ownership of that.
Sure.
I'll say this for Duke. The way that they played in the first half, with Proctor being aggressive as like a super luxury item. You're sitting here going, I was getting excited. I don't even like Duke, and I'm getting excited. You had Flagg driving the bus. That's what it has to be. Malwatch just controlling everything in the middle. Knipple's your scorer, right? Proctor's your luxury. Foster's your glue. And then it has to be James. Sion James has to be that extra shooter. Mm-hmm. You can't, as we saw last year, you got to have more than one shooter. Mm-hmm. When Carolina would bump up against an Alabama, a UConn, a better team, you got to have more than one shooter. And it can't just be Knipple. I think Cooper Flagg does have an old man white game at 17 years old. Loves to back people down. Loves to play that mid-range game. Mm-hmm. Knows his strengths. 1 for 5 from 3. I don't think he's a great marksman. Certainly a skill that he's going to get better at as we talk about him being in his age and where he is. But that's their formula. And again, those parts are better than anyone else's parts. But part of that is Sion has to be that second scorer. Gillis is another guy who can defend, give you some minutes. Brown, same. Brown and Gillis are older guys who can defend and give you minutes. Maybe at home they look a little bit better from the 3-point line, but they haven't done it in their career scoring wise. James has at Tulane. So you're not asking for an unknown quantity to make a leap in a situation where they're not going to get a lot of volume. James is a guy who was obviously a volume player at Tulane. He has to chip in a little bit more than the 4 points, but you look at it, it's a tie game. You have the ball in your best player in the bus driver's hands, and he wants the ball. Yeah. And that's what it's about to me. That was my number one takeaway. Number two takeaway was Kentucky's old as hell, man. Like, Kentucky did the NC State Dick Sheridan thing. They lost to Oakland with like a 25-year-old sniper. Yeah. And they were like, you know what we're going to do? Like, we're going to fire our coach or whatever was happening there. We're going to get a new coach. I recognize a lot of their BYU stuff that he runs at BYU. He runs Mark Pope runs good stuff. When people are like, well, you compared him to Sidney Lowe. Right. Yeah. Sidney ran a lot of good stuff because he was in the NBA. Yeah. Like, they run a lot of good stuff. Yeah. They're old as hell. And I got one Kentucky fan who was texting me like, yeah, man, like, these are the teams that we lost to all the time. And Duke was the one with 3 pros. Yes. And everyone's like, well, you got 3 pros. We're like, yeah, but they're all freshmen. Yeah. Meanwhile, Oakland's got the 25-year-old dental student dotting you for 8 threes.
So it's funny you mentioned that, because this leads to a sports phone call that we received after the game.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
You're going to get a lot of this season. It doesn't really matter what happens on the court. The storyline is going to be about Cooper Flagg. That's what this call is about.
Hey, yeah, this is Ben from Chapel Hill. So just woke up this morning and saw that Duke lost to Kentucky, which was pretty hard to find on ESPN. Because I guess they decided to bury the score with all the other college basketball scores because Duke lost. I'm sure had Duke won, it would have been plastered all over my screen. I was getting like 10 notifications from the first half that Cooper Flagg does this, Cooper Flagg does that, da-da-da-da-da. And then there's not even a headline this morning about Duke winning, so I assume they must have lost because I know ESPN's cocksucking asses would have plastered it everywhere. But no, they buried the score down there. Duke lost by 5. They can go to hell. ESPN can go to hell. I know ESPN's fucking licking their wounds this morning because Duke lost, like they always do. But they both fucking suck. Go Heels.
I appreciate all of that. So from Ben,
I double checked.
But does he not know that ESPN is not like a single platform?
I was gonna get
and
to
that
that.
It does cater to like who your favorites are. So if like I have NC State as one of my favorites, I have the Hurricanes as one of my favorites. So their stuff is populated on my front page.
So if you're watching on YouTube, I took a screen grab of my home screen. Okay. I get all my ESPN notifications and I'm double checking. All right, how many things did I actually get last night? Right. And, sure enough, you go back to the one all the way at the bottom is the fact that Kentucky won. Okay. And then it's Flagg's costly turnovers, Duke Kentucky takes, Steph Curry, blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, at 1:30 in the morning, I get it's concerning. John Shire vows to take hard look at Duke's cramping issues among young players. That's the second time he's done that, by the way. That's the second time he's had to say that. So be curious to see how they figure that out.
And this game was not in the not climate controlled Cameron, although I'm sure Cameron's air conditioned by now.
Yeah, it is. So to your point, yeah, ESPN is not the one entity that exists anymore. I mean, there's a bazillion different podcasts that cover college basketball. Like this morning, Field of 68 was solely focused on Mark Pope because to what you were saying,
you gotta play the hits for the people too.
There's that too, but what you were saying about Mark Pope and Kentucky and being excited last night, when you get away from what we care about, obviously here in the Triangle, the interesting spin for me in listening to Field of 68, I'm sure that Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish will talk about it today whenever IVE on College Basketball comes out. I was reading the Eamon Brennan newsletter, the Buzzer, from Substack, and it was mostly about Kentucky and Mark Pope. This was a feel-good, not a must-win for Mark Pope, but it was a statement game for Kentucky after John Calipari. Like all the things that you just illustrated.
Yeah, look at all these years we've had the McDonald's All-Americans. We have all the draft picks. Like last year, it was impossible what they did.
Yeah.
They had like the only 3 college draft picks in college basketball.
And Kentucky fans were over it because Calipari,
again.
Because Calipari lost his messaging edge, right? You know, at some point, Kentucky fans are like, cool, you're putting people in the NBA, but we care about winning. We care about beating Duke. We care about Final Fours. We don't care about putting guys in the NBA. There's no connection to any of that stuff. So Mark Pope bringing back the warm fuzzies, as you said, an older team, all that kind of stuff. That was more of a statement game for Kentucky. And if you go outside the ESPN sphere, you're going to see a lot more conversation about that than you are about Cooper Flagg and Duke. So, I mean, if you're making your larger point that ESPN is all in on Cooper Flagg and Duke, well, yes, of course they are, because who gets the games? ESPN does. So obviously they want you to watch. And I also thought it was kind of maddening that it was, you know, the lead up to the game from ESPN, if we're going to bang on ESPN, the bigger issue that I have is talk about these programs and the implications for college basketball. Instead, it was, hey, NBA fans, if you're not watching the NBA Cup tonight, why don't you watch this game? Because look at all the draft picks. They're not looking at it from the implications of Duke and Kentucky and the ACC and the SEC and all this other stuff. It was more of, hey, who cares about this college basketball crap? How are they going to do in the NBA? That was the talking point, which I don't like that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff drives me nuts at the end. But anyway, did we get all our hot takes off our chest? I think so. But we have one more thing we have to figure out. Joe, did at any point last night's results change the odds for Duke and the national championship?
See what my ticket looks like. That's what I'll go by. What they're offering me as the refund. The refund.
Use the promo code OG24 as a new DraftKings customer. If you bet $5, you will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. All you got to do is use that promo code OG24. As of this morning on DraftKings, Duke is still plus 1,000 to win the national championship. UConn is still your odds-on favorite at plus 900. Kentucky fans were not so excited from last night's results. I didn't see too much action on that. Kentucky is still 2,500 to win the national championship. North Carolina is plus 2,200. Fights on a plane, no big deal. If you're Auburn, they're still plus 1,600 to win the national championship. So yeah, that's all on DraftKings, and all you need to do is download the app today and use that promo code. And I mentioned the NBA Cup. That's here. That's a lot of fun. The courts are just, they might make your eyes bleed, but hey man, it is what it is. You can go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app. All 30 teams split into 6 groups every Tuesday and Friday, playing for the right to advance to a single elimination in-season tournament, culminating in the NBA Cup Championship in Vegas. So if it's your first time and you want to get it all in on the Steph Curry threes, maybe, I don't think they have props on Eric Spoelstra knowing how many timeouts he has. Regardless, all you got to do is go to DraftKings, download the app, and use the promo code OG24, and new customers will get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Before I say the legal, Joe, has your cash out changed at all?
It's at $65, so it's about the same.
Gotcha. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, visit dkng.co/bball.
Housekeeping.
It's brought to you by Enovana. You can check them out online at enovana.com.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Check out ogtrianglemedia.com. Be a part of OG Fans. We got some Canes stuff we'll get into today with Tom. As the Canes have won 9 out of the last 10. We'll see if they can keep cooking tonight against the Utah Hockey Club. Giglio had some words on Dave Doran and whether or not he'll get a third opportunity, which could result in a third strike. Obviously, we know what happens when you get your third strike. Plus some college football bracketology, which we'll revisit as the brackets we got the bracket look in yesterday. We'll do that in a second. Again, all that is at ogtrianglemedia.com. We got the OG mailbag, which is brought to you by the Butcher's Market. We've got ACC Panic Room, OG on Business. We got women's college basketball. It's all there. Big thanks to Longleaf Swine. I was there over the weekend, and my guess is I will be there tonight for dinner because I'm sneaking in a haircut for the kids with Leanne later today.
Ooh.
So it's an after hours cut. So I just told Caleb, hey man, I gotta bring you back downtown for a haircut. Where do you want to go to dinner? He goes, oh, can we just go back to Longleaf Swine? I want to see what their burger special is. I'm like, dude, that's cool. I got no problems with that. Go to longleafswine.com today. You can cater your next event. You can get some Thanksgiving goodies, or better yet, now that the weather's cooled off, it is peak Longleaf time. Hanging outside at their space, Joe.
Listen, you know how I feel about the smash burger.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
I always see these things about best burgers in town, and I always chime in Longleaf.
And the Frito pie.
Yeah,
especially now that it's cooling down a little bit.
I know you're a fan of that. Also, we're a big fan of Two Roosters. Check them out online at tworoosters.com. Joe, yesterday, did you go and get
the chocolate chip pie?
It's every bit as good as you think it possibly could be.
I love that.
Meets all expectations. Exceeds all expectations.
Fantastic.
Order your own for the week of Thanksgiving. Check them out. tworoosters.com.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
Wait a minute. An OG Sports phone call in the middle of an ad read for Two Roosters?
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Hey, guys. Just heard the show, and I had to say that I am 100% on board with Joe Ovies' Power Through crew for Two Roosters. It is absolutely worth the pain and the discomfort. Everybody always tells me just take a Lactaid. You don't always have a Lactaid on you. What am I supposed to have, a purse with that kind of thing? All right. Anyways, absolutely power through.
I mean, maybe not a purse, dude, but you can always get a fanny pack. My brother's got a fanny pack. He keeps that Lactaid on him.
Sell those shirts. Power through.
The Ovies Power Through crew. Don't give Jared any ideas. Actually, do give Jared ideas. I want to see that on a shirt now. The OG Power Through crew.
Yes.
Who needs Lactaid?
Please.
All right. Big thanks to Hometown Realty. Check them out online at myhtr.com. You can buy and sell with confidence. A lot of companies want to give you these guaranteed offers. The guaranteed offers benefit them, not you. You want to maximize the value of your home, and our friends at myhtr.com can do that for you. Speaking of looking out for you, you need attorneys and counselors that are local, that get the area, understand your needs. And that's where Whitaker and Hamer comes into play. You have some legal issues. Maybe you are a constant traffic violation machine like Joe Giglio. All you got to do is go to wh.lawyer and get that handled. So in between the Champions Classic games with Kansas and Michigan State and Kentucky Duke, we got the college football playoff rankings reveal. And there's a couple of like big picture takeaways. The biggest one is that the SEC is annoyed and the Big Ten is sitting pretty. Right now, if you are a good Big Ten team, because the Big Ten is very stratified, right? The good teams are at the top and they don't have to worry about anything. There's no cannibalism that's taking place, right? So if you're a good Big Ten team, you're good right now. If you are an SEC team that's been through the meat grinder, yeah, not so hot right now. This is not a typo, Joe. Am I looking at this bracket correctly? I do not see Georgia in here. I do not see Georgia. They're the first team out for real.
They lost. You fool around and you find out. Now they play Tennessee this week.
Yeah.
So, or next week. I mean, they've got their chances. That's the thing about remember, it was a 4-team, reveal, and we would argue not really, and it was just kind of like everyone would just say, well, this doesn't matter. Well, now that there's 12 teams, people are acting like this is still gospel. Well, it's not until the final one. So we still have the Tennessee Georgia game, which is going to go a long way in shaping which teams get in. Did you know the SEC has the same tiebreaker as the ACC? So you could be looking at some combined conference opponent records mattering for who actually gets into the SEC championship game and who doesn't. Obviously, Texas A&M and Texas still have to play. Indiana plays Ohio State this week. We know in the Big Ten, it's likely going to be Ohio State and Oregon meeting again in the Big Ten championship game. The real intrigue for me is how will they, number one, treat the teams who don't make the conference championship games? We
will not know until it happens.
I think those teams are going to be rewarded.
Okay.
I think that's what's going to happen. In the SEC in particular, you might see one of those teams get into the SEC championship game, lose, and then get left out for one of the ones that was sitting out at home.
Yeah. There's precedent for that.
There's a real possibility of that happening.
Yeah.
Okay. The Big Ten, to me, you get this rematch potentially between Oregon and Ohio State. The Big Ten has always been this, though. This is same as it ever was for Big Ten. They don't play each other.
No, they don't.
They never play each other.
Yeah.
And the old math was it was Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State who were good. They all played each other. And there was always like an 11-1 Iowa team waiting on the other side. And they would be like, no, we should be in the playoff. It's like, no, you haven't played any of the other teams. Now, I do think Indiana can lose because of the ACC playing with their food and Clemson losing and Miami now losing. The ACC is only going to get one team in. So that one loss, Indiana, as long as they play respectably this week, which I do believe they will against Ohio State, they're going to get in at 11-1.
Yeah.
And there's nothing anyone else can do about it.
Conference meat grinders are not created equally.
Correct.
It's that simple.
The schedules aren't created equally.
The schedules aren't created equally. And that's the problem with the ACC right now, because Clemson's not completely out of the ACC championship running, thanks to Miami's loss. And we also don't know how SMU is going to close things out. Looking at the playoff rankings, and I understand these things are snapshots. They are ultimately meaningless. They can throw everything out the last weekend of the season when all the conference championship games are played and everything else. But if I were a team to have a gripe, if there was one team with a gripe, it would be SMU as the second team out with one loss behind Georgia. Okay. And I'm also looking at Miami SMU, and I am wondering the wide variance between where Miami is in the rankings and where SMU is in the rankings. And maybe there's some politicking taking place because of Boise State. I think Georgia is affected by that as well with the group of five. Top ranked group of five team gets into the bracket and everything else. So Boise State's in there. I also, speaking of the group of five, I'm assuming after a Veterans Day weekend that the College Football Playoff Committee is just simply disrespecting the troops.
They hate the troops
when it comes to Army, right? But here's my curiosity with SMU in particular and why I feel like if there's anybody with a gripe, it would be SMU. What are the key metric differences between the Hurricanes and the Stangs right now? Is it the Louisville game? They both beat Louisville, but Miami did it at Louisville. You've got Duke. They both beat Duke, but they beat Duke in different ways. They should have lost to Duke with the 6 turnovers. A couple missed field goals changed the nature of that game, so SMU gets by. And then the Duke-Miami game, the final score is masking what was a very competitive game where Miami was trailing for 3 quarters plus before Cam Ward decided to just do the Cam Ward thing and take off. And they ended up covering the spread in that game. And I guess if you're looking at it strictly from a who has the difference maker that's going to win you some games, is there a Cam Ward metric that I'm missing that's not part of the data points that they hand out on the team sheets? Like, well, man, have you seen this guy play? Even in a loss to Georgia Tech, Cam Ward can still be pretty electric, right? So that to me is interesting with the discrepancy between Miami and SMU.
Well, all of the numbers are favored to Miami. Strength of record,
yes,
which is the one that they love.
Yes, they do.
Miami's 7, FPI, Miami's 11. Strength of schedule, Miami 38, SMU 81.
But who is Miami really beaten?
I keep trying to tell you
Florida?
that Florida win matters.
Okay. All right. All right.
You underestimate my power.
Okay, well, let me give you this one. David Hale.
Florida is 27 in the FPI. And again, I'm only using this because I know the committee uses it.
Sure. All right, I want to give...
Florida is actually ahead of BYU in the FPI.
I want to give you the David Hale blind item. I'm assuming you have not read this yet from David Hale.
No.
I'm going to give you a Team A and a Team B.
Okay.
Team A, 8-1 record. Number 14 in ESPN strength of record. Best win came versus S&P plus number 20. Loss came to a top 10 team by 3. Has 4 wins versus the Power 4 with a winning record by an average of 14 points. That's Team A. Team B, 8-1 record. Number 11 in ESPN strength of record. Best win came versus an S&P plus number 28. Loss came to a top 15 team by 15 points. Has 1 win versus a Power 4 team with a winning record by 3. Which is which?
I don't know.
Team A. Well, who do you think is better?
Are my choices Miami and SMU or Team A and Team B?
Team A, Team B. Who's better?
I'm not. I'm a visual person, so I can't. Well, I can't process what you're saying to me right now.
Well, it's Team A.
Okay.
Team A has a better blind resume here, but Team A is SMU and Team B is Texas.
Texas.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So just David Hale throwing that blind resume out there to illustrate a point.
2 Texas schools. Yeah.
One Texas school has a lot of brand power. The other Texas school has to tell a conference, we don't need your money, just let us in. So there you go.
Well, SMU has a way in though. That's the thing.
Yeah, they can win the ACC. But they shouldn't, but that's my point. It's like we look at SMU completely differently because of who they are, is the point.
Correct.
And I think it's kind of ridiculous as to where they are right now. We're having legitimate conversations where a 3-loss team could jump past them. It's like at some point losses do matter. You know my thing on this.
Yeah, I don't think a 3-loss conference team is going to, an SEC team is going to get in this year. I mean, if it is, it would be the scenario where I mentioned. Okay. You have a 2-loss team that makes the SEC championship game and then loses in the SEC championship game.
Gotcha.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. I think that scenario is going to end up popping that team out. So they'll basically be punished for playing. The number one thing I also want you to take away from this, and I've been saying this all along. Okay, you mentioned it is a television product.
It's a television product, yes.
So Alabama, bet your bottom dollars getting in. Texas, under those numbers, getting in.
Yes.
I suspect Georgia finds their way in as well. But look what they did in these matchups. And look how they're manipulating the rankings. Because they don't want to give you another SEC versus SEC game in the opening rounds.
No.
And also keep in mind that Oregon played Boise State in the regular season. So at 12, you could see Boise State go up to 11 if Oregon ends up losing. This is why I have it in my projection. I have Boise State as the 11 seed. Also in my projections, I have the same types of matchups because they're not going to give you conference rematches. They're not going to give you even conference matchups in these opening rounds. That's why you're going to see that Notre Dame Indiana game and lose your mind.
Speaking of losing their minds, there have been some Duke football fans in my mentions, in the YouTube comments, and a couple of emails. They're losing their minds over the way that NC State fans have been talking about what happened this past weekend. And I mentioned it. Duke is actually a key piece to the component of how we talk about Miami and SMU. This is a Duke team that's now 7-3, and Miami handled them. And I mean, you can think Duke is good, you can think Duke is bad. That's not the point. The point is they're a 7-3 team, and Miami handled them there in the end. SMU should have lost. I think that's a data point when we talk about SMU versus Miami. So let's go back to the sports phone.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
I was wondering when this man couldn't take it anymore with all those NC State sports phone calls where they were upset about losing to Duke.
Hey guys, this is Ben from Bull City Coordinators. Calling in, listen to today's episode and that 3-minute sort of disassociative fever dream call about from the one NC State fan about NC State losing to lowly Duke and Doran losing to lowly Duke, talking about what happened in the 80s and 90s. I guess he's been in a damn coma or something for the last several decades. Look at a frickin' calendar, man. Okay. And second, just steering onto the lowly Duke comment, who do you think's coaching the team? Carl Franks and Ted Roof are not walking through that door. Okay. 3 good coaches have come in since 2008 and done one hell of a job at Duke. You know, Cutcliffe's era went off the rails, but you want to talk about losing to lowly Duke and being 1-3 against lowly Duke. You can't see the air quotes I'm using right now. Why don't you look at that 2013 team? It was a pretty damn good team. Played for the ACC championship. Okay? All right. Last year's team that won, Elko did such a good job coaching. He got tired by a fucking SEC team in A&M. Okay? So let's not crap all over that team last year, okay, that was doing fantastic until the season got derailed by injuries. And what we've seen this year has been a very good, very methodical team that went nose to nose with SMU, who somehow, some way may just win the frickin' conference this year, okay? So don't give me that weak, lowly Duke shit. Get with the times. And second, if you're going to bring that up again, I just got to say, scoreboard, motherfucker. That last one may have gone a little too far, and I understand that. But I got to stick up for the Blue Devils and what they've been doing. Hey, you guys, keep up the good work as always.
A lot of people have decided, given their multiple choice, curse or don't, they've decided to curse on the sports phone, which we appreciate. So that's what it's here for. Let me, because again, I think Ben's call best represents the attitude that I've received from Duke football fans out there. And I understand the sentiment. Duke, for all of the ways they've been dunked on in the years past, never forget that Duke's own lawyer once said they're so bad that any team is a replacement level
qualified
team.
replacement. Yeah, on their schedule, the Louisville lawsuit.
Yep. Go look that one up. That's a real thing. It was a brilliant legal strategy to say, we suck so bad, you can get anybody. It's the same damn thing, right? They won. So understand there's a lot of history that you're fighting. To Duke fans' point, it's not like David Cutcliffe was a popular hire when he got that hire, but he turned that thing around, instilled a little bit of a culture there. Yeah, it fell off. Then they got it right with Mike Elko. And maybe they've gotten it right with Manny Diaz. That's a Duke-specific conversation. Duke-specific conversation and what the expectations are for Duke football in the grand scheme of things. The issue that state fans have is losing to Duke in the fashion in which they've lost to Duke flies in the face of all the things that Dave Doran and those who support Dave Doran point to when defending the program. We've got a culture. We have our fan support. We put guys in the NFL. You should be at a different point in your program where Duke doesn't pop you in the ass like they do. All right? Not in your ear.
Different.
Smack you in the ass like Mark Gottfried smacked Mike Krzyzewski's ass on the way out of the arena. All right? That's what Duke keeps doing to state in these situations. But when you compile that with Wake Forest and the 6-6 record, when you compile that with Boston College, we are talking about small private schools with not a lot of fan support. Not a lot of fan support. And
they have money.
They do have money, but that doesn't mean squat at a lot of different places. You know, it doesn't.
Money matters.
Money matters. Money does matter.
NIL is what's saving Duke football because, yes, it fell off under Cutcliffe to the point where it washed away, in a lot of people's opinion, what they had accomplished under Cutcliffe to have the final 2 years. The 2 Elko years and this year have been a direct result of their investment in NIL.
My point about the money, though, you're right. Money does matter.
Yes.
But so does a lot of the other factors that go into why somebody would want to go to a program. Straight up.
NIL has saved Duke in this sense.
Okay.
The old way for Duke, the only way for them to win previously was to convince the same people who wanted to go to Notre Dame and Stanford and whatever other high level academic that they were. That was their only way to win.
I'll stop being nuanced
they can at least get players and get players and pay the players and have them come in. And it's not, you don't hear it anymore. The patented sell of it's a 40-year degree. It's a 40-year choice, not a 4-year choice.
I got that.
That's how they've gone from 2-9 and 3-9 to 9-4, 8-5, 7-3. And Mike Elko, as you already know my opinion of Mike Elko, unbelievable coach.
Okay. Let me put it in less nuanced terms.
Right.
Should State be worse than Duke as a football program?
I do not think that. No, I do not think
Should State be worse than Wake Forest?
I do not
in
think
terms
that.
of football.
Correct. I do not.
Should State look at what Duke has done and Wake Forest has done, where they played for higher stakes conference things, whether it's a championship, gone to Orange Bowls, any of that stuff, and go, well, they just got more money than us. No, they're small private schools with very little fan base. I mean, not very little fan base support, but they can barely fill out their building. NC State's bragging about their sellout streaks, their tailgate culture. Blah, look at the guy, look at the quarterbacks we got in the NFL, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, man, I understand where State fans are going, what in the entire hell's going on here? Under no circumstances should this large public university be worse than these two private schools in the state. This is not complicated. And this is not a knock on Duke. It's more about NC State's own standard with their fan base. I don't think it's a very complicated thing. That's all I'm saying. So there, throw nuance out the door. Ask yourself that question. In what world should NC State be a worse football program than Duke?
Don't you think Mike Elko's a pretty good coach? And Dave Clawson's a pretty good coach? And Jim Grove's a pretty good coach?
Yes. So then that gets to the other question.
Okay.
That gets to the other question.
All those people I just mentioned are really good in-game coaches.
That gets to the other question.
Okay.
If these guys are getting these good in-game coaches, why can't State? Right? You telling me State can't find one? State can't afford one? Again, that's the question. That's what State fans are concerned about. That they're not concerned about you. In the same way that like Duke basketball fans don't really care about anything else that's going on. They care about what's going on with us.
Right.
That's fandom in general, man. Right. That's just fandom in general. So yeah, Duke guys, I get it. I mean, you should be proud of what's going on the last 3 years, and they've been able to survive losing a hot coach in Mike Elko. And it looks like they might have gotten it right with Manny Diaz. But we don't know how Mike Elko would have run things in year 4, 5.
Sure.
We don't know that.
It's different.
We don't know where
year 12.
We don't know where, man.
It's hard.
That's the other thing that goes on here.
Sustain.
Look at Wake Forest and Dave Clawson. That's hard to sustain. Look at Jim Grove. That's hard to sustain. So that's the other point about this with Duke. You can thump your chest because you've got the scoreboard. Absolutely. I ain't knocking that. But one thing about North Carolina football is that it's not very conducive for long-term success. And we've seen hot starts that have petered out at a variety of different places. You had your moment. It wasn't sustainable. What's that going to be like at Duke going forward? Anyway, got on a little bit of a tangent there, but it was a very good phone call. That's why we like the sports phone. That's why we like our people. So we appreciate you calling 919-444-2211. You have decided to curse. Speaking of all this college stuff, look at all these goodies from Home Field. I see a Duke hoodie. I see a State hoodie, the Wake Forest hoodie. These are things that will not peter out over time. These hoodies.
One consistency.
I have the Home Field hoodie that I was wearing yesterday. The Home Field, like the Rob Lowe NFL hat version of the Home Field hoodie that just says Home Field Athletics. I've had that thing for a couple years now. Consistently warm, consistently comfortable. It'll never let you down. So go to homefieldapparel.com. Use that promo code OG24 to save 15% off your order. Big thanks to Matt Davis. Not only does he give us fun tchotchkes like this Josh McRoberts Duke program with the old school Carlisle cup on there. Does Carlisle even exist anymore?
Good question.
Anyway, if you're a jeweler that wants to advertise on this podcast, if you're a remnant of Carlisle, let me know. We got a spot for you. Anyway, I'm being serious, by the way. You can just email us, theoggoesdigital@gmail.com.
We'll always take your money.
We're absolutely willing to take on more corporate champions if you'd like, if you're a diamond jeweler out there. Regardless, Matt Davis, he's an OG corporate champion, and we appreciate him. Check him out online at insuregarner.com, theoginsurance.com, or you can call 919-779-8277. Breeze Through has been a corporate champion for many, many months from the jump with us here on Ovies and Giglio. And we're going to be out at a beer cave next Thursday, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, Joe. I'm excited about this. Adam's been blowing us up about coming out to one of their fancy beer caves, and this is the one that is on Pool Road. Grand reopening customer appreciation event following that van that crashed into the building. So they're gonna have fuel discounted prices for a few hours, $1.76 a gallon.
I was gonna say usually the big hit here is not us. It's not even the beer cave.
It's the cheap gas.
It's the cheap gas.
Yes.
Hey, but we're ancillary benefits.
Hey, man.
Okay.
Come visit us in the beer
We're
cave.
the Tyrese Proctor of Breezer. We are a luxury item.
Speaking of luxury items, they got a lot of them at Nature's Relief. And when I say luxury items, I mean the variety of drinks that Joe Giglio can just get. I don't even know, man. Sleepy time for you?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. Get the Delta 9 seltzers.
Mm-hmm.
I usually have one probably about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then it's closing time.
Is it?
Man.
Okay.
That's a great sleep too.
So I also find myself in that same situation. I mentioned the drinks. We talk about the seltzers a lot, but the thing about Nature's Relief is they have a lot of other alternatives, alcohol alternatives.
Yes.
The wine, they have the nowadays. They also have some other, I'm forgetting the name. I think it was like Mezcali, I think is what it's called, right? But again, they know this stuff better than we do.
Yeah,
it's all
really
great stuff.
It's really a great experience going in there because you see the people who know what they want, they go in, they ask for it, boom, they're on their way. If you're new or intimidated or slightly anxious, you go in there and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And they can tell you, here are some of your options. Do you want it as a gummy? Do you want something that you could smoke? Do you want something that you can drink? It's all there. They're there for you. Nature's Relief. Go check them out.
Carolina Hurricanes are back in action tonight against the Utah Hockey Club.
The two Utes.
They still don't have a name yet, do they?
It's a hockey club. I think they want to be Yeti, but they can't decide if it's going to be Yetis or Yeti.
Okay. This kind of bothers me. I know this is not how I intended to get in this conversation with the Carolina Hurricanes. But now that I'm thinking about the Utah Hockey Club, why not just stick with the Utah Hockey Club?
Well, they're going to do the same thing that Washington did.
Right.
Which is then they'll sell merch forever of the Utah Hockey Club.
Yeah.
Then they'll be the Utah Yetis or whatever they're supposed to be next year.
I feel like that's stolen valor of throwback.
Sure. Yes.
You know?
You're creating your own.
Should we do that with the podcast? I guess we have some logos that we used at the beginning that we don't use anymore.
Well, think about it. They were originally the Winnipeg Jets. Then they moved to Phoenix. So they can't be the Jets anymore.
Yeah.
They're probably what did we wait here? 20 years before we did Hartford stuff?
Right.
So they're another 19 years away from that.
Okay.
So now you just do the Washington thing. You be the Utah Hockey Club for 1 year. Then you be whatever you are next year. And then people will be like, hey, man, you got that sweet Utah Hockey Club swag anywhere?
Yeah. It's
you know who's falling for this nonsense, by the way, is Dundon.
In what sense?
They've started calling themselves the Carolina Hurricanes Hockey Club.
Oh, I have.
And I've seen some of that branding in the arena.
I actually have a hoodie.
Yeah.
That I wear to the Ute hockey games.
I think this is more of them finally breaking away from the Gale Force holdings. I think now they are officially registered as the Carolina Hurricanes Hockey Club.
Okay. And if you can sell
who's ever
merch that
running
way,
the building too. So
that's fine. If you, that I do not know. Yeah. That I don't know. I don't get into enough Centennial Authority meetings like Luke DeCock to really know the ins and the outs of it. That man's a sicko. He was at one last night or yesterday afternoon.
I saw it in the building and I was like, looks like Dundon's trying to make a little move here.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because then you could do the anagram.
Yep.
Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah. Okay. So look, as somebody, as an entity that also has varying ways to brand the podcast, nothing but respect.
Yep.
Find ways to brand it. I just think it'd be funny if you just left it at Utah Hockey Club, just like it should have been the Washington Football Club
team. It should have been the Washington Team Football.
Washington Team Football. Yeah.
Yeah. They should have been WTF.
It should have been.
That would have been.
It should have been. That's what it should have been. But you know what? Maybe one day they can go back to that. Who knows? Anyway, where were we? Oh, yes. The Carolina Hurricanes.
We're in the lightning round.
We were in the lightning round, and the Carolina Hurricanes are back in action.
It's hard to keep up with sometimes.
They are wrapping up another roadie, which they've looked pretty damn good along the way before they come back for a back-to-back on Saturday and Sunday. They got the Senators on Saturday and the Blues on Sunday.
Sunday's Hockey Fights Cancer Day, so I'll be over in the building on Sunday.
Okay. I asked this question to Luke. Speaking of Luke, I asked this question to Luke yesterday, and I am curious how not sustainable, but at some point, you do expect the Carolina Hurricanes to cool off a little bit. And I am curious how it will be handled once they cool off a bit and find themselves in a win here, win the next day, lose 2 in a row, win the next, that kind of stuff. Or the Canes just might find themselves in that they don't have a lot of back-to-back losses going forward. They might just win one, lose one, win one, lose, like that kind of thing. I just don't know how sustainable this is. I don't know when Freddie Anderson's coming back. Who knows how much longer, the Marty Necas streak continues, like all that kind of stuff. It's great. It's fun. I'm not trying to be like Debbie Downer here. It is just kind of like not what we expected. And I am waiting if there's a regression back to the mean a little bit when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes. I don't think it's going to start tonight, but at some point it will.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to win 85% of their games going forward, obviously. But when you say sustainable, the way that they play is absolutely sustainable.
True.
Now, the way that they're going to score with Jack Roslovich and maybe some of these other Jordan Martinook on a current heater as we speak, those things will peter out and find their level. But for the most part, the way that they play, the way that they control the puck, the way that they use their system, that's not changing. And I think that's the biggest credit. And I think maybe that's even the biggest surprise to Rod Brindamore at this point, if we truth serumed him. I think he would say, man, I did not think we would pick it up this quickly. And they have.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hill.
Oh, yeah. We snuck that hockey break in there. Big thanks to Happy and Hill. Check them out. Download the app. Make it super easy for you to go to their various locations, order your food, pick it up, and go. That's what it's all about. Let's continue with the lightning round, shall we?
Topics, stack it up. Giglio, throw back it up. Well, I know what we'll do. A lightning round.
So the NBA Cup is taking place right now, and I have a little bit of an issue with some of the courts. I know this sounds stupid, but are you familiar with the phrase millennial gray?
No.
So there is a design aesthetic that the generation that's coming up behind us, you and me, you're Gen X, I'm that weird Oregon Trail, not quite Gen X age range, right? The millennials love social media neutral, gray, where anything else that you're wearing can pop in a picture or something like that. You look at most home decor these days, it's very, very bland. I don't know if you've seen some of the new construction. It's bothering the hell out of me that a lot of these homes are just this very bland gray and white with black.
Okay. You're saying this is intentional.
This is very, very intentional.
Okay.
Cars, right? If you take a look around, cars are basically black, white, and some sort of gray. It actually costs you more to get color now. Like if you want red, if you want a deep blue. Actually, when I was looking at my Honda, right?
Yeah.
Getting the black was whatever. Getting the gray was whatever. If I want to get that blue that pops in the sun, that was going to cost extra. That was going to cost extra. So I'd say this because you've seen this now on the courts. During the NBA Cup, they got these funky courts. So this is Portland. Now, I think the contrast here with Portland, if you're not watching on YouTube, actually kind of pops. The court itself is a darker gray, charcoal-like, with the red around the court and the yellow in between to represent that NBA Cup, right? I think that pops, especially while you're wearing red jerseys. There's a nice contrast there. Now, let's get to the other ones. This, I believe, is in Dallas. That gray makes it look like my color. No.
They're in gold.
I'm sorry, that's Golden State. That's the Chase Center. My bad. I'm looking at the wrong one. So that's the Chase Center. That, to me, with the way the court is gray and the yellow with the NBA Cup popping with all the Golden State stuff, that looks to me that I was watching that live on television, I would wonder what's wrong with my TV.
Yes.
Like, what's wrong with my color balance? Did I go grayscale on this? That looks really messed up. It almost looks surreal, like it's not a real thing. And then the other one, I think this one's in Utah. So yes, this one's at the Delta Center. and I see more millennial gray. And again, it messes with your freaking, like, I'm not colorblind, but I imagine this is what it would look like if you were colorblind. It's just very, very strange. It's messing with my eyes. But that's neither here nor there. The NBA Cup has provided us two storylines. Yeah, Klay Thompson's return to Golden State.
Yep.
Everybody got teary. They're wearing the captain hats.
Very smart for them to do.
Very, very good. And then we've got Eric Spoelstra having a very rare mistake in their loss in the NBA Cup. I think it was 11 seconds to go. He calls a timeout after Detroit had cut the lead. Actually, no, they tied the game on a backdoor play, and Eric Spoelstra decides to call a timeout after they tied it up. Whoopsie daisy, they did not have any timeouts. Guess who was in the building for somebody calling a timeout that they did not have?
It's got to be Chris Webber.
No, it's Jalen Rose. And Jalen Rose is just like, I've seen this before. At least he has a good sense of humor about it these days. It's also his Pistons, so it is what it is.
Jalen Rose, Michigan, happened to Michigan, 93 national title game. Chris Webber called a timeout he did not have. Carolina ends up winning. Fab Five ends up losing.
Speaking of generations, I feel it's kind of ridiculous that we have to provide context for that, because we do have some younger listeners who might not know. All right, to an ongoing college football storyline. This is from ESPN. Oklahoma president AD back Brent Venables amid struggles. Sooners are 5-5 overall. They're 1-5 in conference play. Venables is in his third season.
1-5 in the league?
1-5. They are 21-15 overall. And this is from Joseph Haraz Jr. Apologies if I got the president's name wrong. Quote, "We all get emotional during the course of a season. What's unwavering is the commitment to him. This is a new era for us, but it's also a new era for college athletics." That's the key line. It's a new era for college athletics. And there's going to be a lot of adjustment, and there's going to be a lot that takes place. As far as my commitment to Coach Venables, it is 100%. Let's cut through the BS, shall we? When that man says it's a new era for college athletics and there's going to be a lot of adjustment, it means we ain't got the money like we used to because that damn house settlement, Joe. And that's why we cannot move on from Brent Venables.
$45 million is what his buyout would be if they got rid of him this year. It goes down to 35 next year. A little bit more palatable.
So, you know what? Stay fans. You want to know why Dave might be back one way or the other unless he retires? Money. I mean, he's earned the right, but it's been projected to be a very slow coaching carousel this offseason as schools.
If Florida didn't move on, then no one's moving on.
Schools are really trying to get a handle of what the post-house settlement world's going to look like. And a lot of coaches are going to get another year beyond where they should have because of it. It's just as simple as that. Hey, Joe, do you want to read the latest feature on ESPN.com about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets titled "The Booming Silence of the Aaron Rodgers Experiment"?
Do we have to?
There are many topics for lightning round today on OMG.
You're right, because there's a much better way to spend our time. You sent this to me from Instagram, and this is titled "How Every Star Wars Film Has the Wrong Title." Okay, let's see what we got here.
This is why every Star Wars film has the wrong title. What happens in Episode 1? We meet Anakin Skywalker, The Rise of Skywalker.
Valid.
Years later, we find out that Palpatine, leader of the Sith, have ordered an army to destroy the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith.
2 for 2.
I hate this. I hate this because he's right. It's 2 for 2. That's a good point.
In Episode 3, Order 66 happens and the clones attack. Attack of the Clones.
All right. Whoa. The clones technically attacked in Episode 2.
Sure.
But I understand where the Sith reveal themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I get that. I still think episode 2 should be Attack of the Clones, but I see the point they're making for episode 3. Totally makes sense.
In episode 4, Obi-Wan teaches Luke that it's time for the Jedi.
Oh, one other thing though about episode 3, then I think about it. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith still works for episode 3 because Palpatine finally takes over. He finally gets his revenge.
Mm-hmm.
The Sith get their revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was on shaky ground. That's on shaky ground.
All right.
That's on shaky ground. All right, let's get to episode 4, A New Hope.
To Return of the Jedi. In episode...
Yeah, because after the...
Yeah. Yeah, that works.
Episode 5, Yoda teaches Luke how to use the Force. The Force Awakens.
Damn it! Yeah, okay, all right.
In episode 6, both Yoda and Anakin die, which makes Luke the last Jedi.
Your pain in real time is just beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Let's get to the prequel or to the sequel trilogy.
After the Empire is destroyed, a new Empire comes. The Empire strikes back. Come on, guys.
I mean,
but remember, it wasn't the Empire. It was the it was the what was it called? Not the Resistance. It was the First Order. It was the First Order, Joe. Never mind that the books basically tell you it's Imperial remnants and it's the Empire striking back. No.
Okay.
No. It's the First Order this time.
See how he brings this home.
Okay, this is Last Jedi, episode 8.
In episode 8, Luke trains Rey and then sacrifices himself to give the Resistance a new hope.
All right, somehow Palpatine has returned in episode 9.
Right, it still haven't been explained to me properly. But.
It's whatever.
Finally, in episode...
Honestly, it doesn't matter.
No.
It doesn't matter. Also, respect to this dude. He's rocking a MacBook Air. I think that's and I want to say that's a 2010 MacBook Air. That's pretty impressive. That thing's still running.
Yep.
Episode 9, Palpatine returns from the dead, making him the Phantom Menace. Thank you for coming to my...
I don't know.
That was inspired, man. That was inspired.
Look, I'll give him that. It was very, very inspired. But the Phantom Menace still applies for episode 1 because we come to find out that Emperor Palpatine is this menace in the background that nobody can identify. But I understand where the spirit is on that one. I understand where they're getting on that. That was very good. I hate that you sent that to me.
I know.
Sometimes you will indulge like I do at Two Roosters, and you hate yourself for it sometimes. But it's okay because O2 Fitness is always there. O2 Fitness is going to be there waiting for you to sweat it out, to get yourself into shape, to fit into pants that you need to fit into for a bat mitzvah in a couple of weeks.
This is quite a goal of yours.
Yeah, I'm going to have to buy new pants. But it makes me understand that I just need to get back into my dress pants that used to fit. But that's neither here nor there. That's a goal for me. You might have different goals. O2 Fitness Clubs can help you out with that. They will make sure that you achieve the goals you are setting for yourself.
O2 Fitness, so much more than a gym.
And it goes beyond your fitness goals. It could also be just how you feel, how your joints, your neck, like Joe with Renew Physiotherapy. Maybe you want to eat better. Again, they can get you in with Loop Nutrition to get you on a meal plan and make it super, super easy for you to follow that plan. It's all part of O2 Fitness. You went this week, right?
Yep. But Krista taking care of me. We got some dry needling. Always a good thing. We got some different exercises that we have going, Joe. Very humbling being out in the O2 Fitness greater arena floor there. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay. All right. So go to o2fitnessclubs.com. Big thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. You can check them out online at bugsbite.com. A friend of mine actually said to me the other day, how am I still getting bit by mosquitoes?
I know.
Well,
I saw some ants yesterday.
Yeah. You know, there are reasons
cold
for
snap
it.
needs to get here, man.
There are reasons for it, but sometimes the NCGA says you can't talk about it. So you just need to understand. That Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority can make sure it's handled. So go to bugsbite.com so you can bundle and save. Big thanks to our friends at Roback. Roback.com is the website. Roback has a sale going on.
A lot going on.
They do have a lot going on.
I'm gonna spare you. Well, you can run through some highlights, but I'm gonna give you the quickest version of this. So we did our golf tournament, and there were a lot of people, because Roback has a deal pending with NC State that they're going to be coming out with NC State licensed merch. They're like, hey man, I want to save my OG promo code until the NC State stuff comes out. Well, this is a way for you to do this and still save money, because a lot of their items are site-wide 20% off. So go check them out. From all of the different, they have pants that will help you with your post-Thanksgiving waistline.
Mm-hmm.
They have all of the hoodies and golf gear that we have too, but they have different hoodies for winter as well. Check them out, please. Roback, big Black Friday sale going on, 20% off, and you could still save that OG20 code for when both the State and Carolina merch comes out in the spring.
As we mentioned too, with all the holidays coming up, maybe you don't really want to cook. That's no problem. The Butcher's Market can handle that.
We got
for
an
you.
answer for you.
They got the butchersmarkets.com. You can find out about their catering options. Maybe you got a holiday office party that some people have started to make fun of because the turkey's always dry. You don't have to worry about that with the Butcher's Market. So contact them today at thebutchersmarkets.com and get that office holiday party taken care of. All right, Joe, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe questions. The OG Sports phone has been very busy this week.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
All right, I think this came to us from a 910 number.
Hey, guys. I wanted to call in and respond to some things you said on your show yesterday. It's year 12. And we're trying to push the who do we want to be narrative. Come on, that's ridiculous. In no scenario should a coach be having the leeway to try and figure out his program identity after a decade in. I mean, that's insane. Doran isn't a good recruiter. He's not a good X's and O guy. So what the heck is he good at? And don't talk to me the development thing. Somebody somewhere wrote an article at one point showing the amount of guys put into the NFL, and it's been pretty much standard for NC State across the board, regardless of coaches. So he's just maintaining what everyone else has done up until this point. This is uninspired football. Also, not to mention losing to Syracuse, Wake, and Duke all at home in year 12. Guys, that's unacceptable. I think everybody here agrees that there should be higher standards than that, especially 12 years in. Duke looks faster, smarter, bigger, and stronger than State, and there is no excuse for that. That should never be the case. It's time to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. Let's lose out, pray that our sorry administration will grow a set, listen to the fans, and make a change. I mean, this program needs a reboot from the ground up. What good does cycling through new coordinators do every few years when the same result comes out year after year? Dave has his fingerprints all over everything. Changing a coordinator for the 18th time is not going to do anything good for the program. All it's doing is rearranging the chairs on the deck of the Titanic. So, fire Dave. Go Pack. See you guys.
So,
well, I guess that's the point, is this is not the Titanic, because the Titanic did sink.
Yeah. There was an interesting point that was made to me by a buddy of mine who is at NC State. And he said, look, man, Randy's on the way out. Randy ain't doing anything. Boo's going to keep it chill.
What a luxury.
Yeah, Boo's going to keep it chill because, again, with the new president coming in, you don't quite know the direction things are going. But he goes,
hey man, let's inherit this $16 million debt.
But he goes, you and I are old enough to remember when we were in school when Marianne Fox took over as chancellor at NC State.
Fired Mike O'Kane on Thanksgiving Day.
She went to Mike O'Kane's house and was like, you know what? We're getting better for you. Because remember, she came from Texas. There was a football standard, yada, yada, yada. And she was like, I care about this thing and we ain't good enough. So she went to Mike O'Kane and said, get out, pack your bags. Right. I don't know what the next president's going to look like. We don't know who it's going to be. We don't know what kind of direction they're in. But in the meantime, nothing's really going to happen because of all, just like with Brett Venables. Like there's all sorts of things that are going on right now that are making it making schools a little bit more reluctant to just go ahead and get rid of coaches because they got the money to do so. Just something to consider. All right. This, I think, is from a 336.
What's up, Joes? I'm just listening back to Monday's episode with the reaction of the Duke loss for NC State. A point you guys made, like, he's not going to win on the football field. He's not an X's and O's guy. An X's and O's guy. He's a culture guy. He doesn't recruit well. He relies on other people to recruit well. For him, at what point does culture get you so far? Like, I think the culture aspect is great. I think you need some coach like that. But you could also have a coach who is good at those other things. You look at, like, Mike Elko. He's a great culture guy. And I know he just came from Duke. He builds this culture at a small school like Duke to where they go out and win 9-10 games in a year like last year. And then he goes to Texas A&M and he's just right off the ground running, same thing. And he's an X's and O's guy. Like, he puts out a winning product. I just think in today's world where NIL is such a thing, I also too think that X's and O's matter more than ever, because you're getting an offensive explosion around the country where, people are developing new forms of offense and all this, whatever. All this to say that I do think, like you said, Dave's, I think his time is dwindling down here. I do think he's earned another year, like Joe Giglio said. But I just wanted to point those things out.
Yeah, I mean, you can be both. I'm not denying that.
Yeah,
I think people. It was the Wake game that really broke people, and now, of course,
losing to Duke.
This brings it all back, and you're right. The stasis that's going to happen in college football by their own doing, by the way, not just the House settlement, but when the signing date is, the transfer portal, and I think we all agree it's going to be hard to get any better without using the transfer portal, and unless you fire someone like right now,
Oh, by the way, notice that ECU just is putting up points on the board since they got rid of Mike Houston. It's kind of funny how
well, they switch quarterbacks too. So
yeah, there is that. But the fact that they get rid of Mike Houston, their offense had been stagnant the last 2 years, and all of a sudden they're just putting points on the board is kind of interesting. And of course, the same thing applies to App State, by the way. We haven't really spent a lot of time talking about App State. I didn't watch the game. I just saw the score. They got crushed by Coastal Carolina. And I get it's been a weird year for App because of the hurricane and everything else, but I understand where App State fans aren't really happy right now. All right, I think we got one more sports phone call.
Hey, guys. This is Derek from Wilkesboro. Listen, I'm an App State fan. Why don't people just call it what it is? State is scared to come up. They're scared to come up the mountain to play App. Dorn will talk about being a blue-collar school. They're in the dirt. Yet you can't drive up the mountain? I mean, you say the ACC told them not to go play a group of 5 teams next year. Well, on the road. Well, why is it that there are 5 other teams doing it? Freaking UNC's even going to play at Charlotte. So just admit it that State has too much to lose, not enough to win, and coming up to App. I mean, I really think that's what it is. But I was personally really looking forward to that game, Kid Brewer. Thanks, y'all. Big fan of the show.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that game as well.
But who hasn't admitted that State wasn't scared? I mean,
I think everybody agrees with you.
Yeah,
everybody agrees with you. They didn't want to play App. They're cowards in that regard. Straight up. I don't think anybody's disagreeing on that. All right, let's go to YouTube before we get out of here. We got John with regard to Ovies clogging a Magic Kingdom toilet. Not all heroes wear capes. My brother texted me. He goes, which toilet was it? Because, he's a Disney adult. He's at Magic Kingdom all the time. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it was the Rapunzel area one. He goes, that's one of the better bathrooms. Damn, man. What did you do? I'm like, you don't want to know. From Dark Methos. What? I'll never really understand. The thing I'll never understand about the NFL lately is that you constantly hear football experts and analysts say, oh, the NFL is so different from college. Oh, it's so much faster. Oh, it's so much more difficult. They really have to adjust. And yet every year, multiple rookie QBs are starters. And every year people are stunned to see some of them not doing all that well. Like, I get all these teams just want to get results with the new guy, and it's on the rookie contract. But damn, man, it's becoming disgusting to see all these young QBs flame out or get physically destroyed before they have a genuine shot. Now, I completely agree with you on that. From Drew, please put "Let 'em smoke" on a t-shirt. Marching band, yeah. Let 'em smoke. Let 'em smoke. From Curtis, just once I want Dave Canales to go off script when questioned about who's the starting QB and exclaim, "I won't reveal that because it gives me pleasure."
Yes,
Shout out to Larry Fedora.
Please.
Shout out to Larry Fedora. And let's see, from Jeremy, I don't get this take. Why would you move on from Bryce if you're saying there is only one solid prospect in this draft? Bryce is showing real progress.
Sure, Jeremy. Sure.
No. Here's the thing. I'm going to answer this question legitimately. Yes, there only really seems to be one real prospect in the draft. Fine. But you can find a bridge QB. The Panthers tried the bridge QB literally with a guy named Bridgewater before David Tepper got annoyed. You can find a bridge QB. You can find yourself a Kirk Cousins if you want.
Sure. Maybe even Kirk Cousins.
At this rate,
they
who
might
knows?
move on to Penix.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Might be time for them.
That's my point. That's my point. From Blind Lemon Jello, you guys are getting sassy about these quarterbacks and coaches and other people thinking they can turn their luck around. What's up over there with Bo Nix? It's year one. We see this a lot. I mean, Caleb Williams was the truth just a couple of weeks ago. Now they're firing their offensive coordinator.
No, you're missing the main point here.
And
what's up with Bo Nix? Not you, but
yeah.
What's up with Bo Nix? He's with one of the guys who knows how to coach quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's what's up with Bo Nix.
There is that.
Those
they have a good defense.
Those are the people who are worth their weight in gold, the ones who can coach quarterbacks.
They also have a really good defense there.
Sure.
And also, one thing that is an under-discussed storyline this year is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is not, he's having a little bit of a sophomore slump. We ain't going to talk about it. We ain't going to talk about it because it obviously messes with the narrative. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Appreciate you all listening. We will see you on an OG Butcher's Market live tomorrow, 2:00 on YouTube.